right, thank you, Carrie. We've got Billy Corgan from Smashing Pumpkins here with us, right here at 89.5 WSOU.
Hello.
And we just want to say that it's really cool that you can come down and hang out with us. We're going to be spinning some tunes that you're picking.
Yes.
It's going to be a guest DJ. This is great. A guest DJ on WSOU today. Billy Corgan from the Smashing Pumpkins. And, I don't know. Let's just talk, I guess, in case for those of you out there who don't know how you guys started out and how you formed. I know you're probably really sick of talking about this, but just a brief introduction, I guess, would be really cool.
Well, we formed in 1988 in Chicago, and we were kind of part of the, at the time, Chicago was very much like Husker Du replacements kind of thing, and so we wanted to kind of combine like what, say, some bands like Jane's Addiction, things like that, were doing with kind of like more soft music and more dynamic. I don't know, it's hard to explain what we are if you've never heard us, but I just wanted to kind of put all these styles together, and so we were part of kind of this alternative scene in Chicago, and then we were on Sub Pop and blah, blah, blah. And now we're here. I don't know. It's hard for me to compress it all. It's 5.5 years of agony and misery.
And togetherness.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
All right. So you guys are from Chicago, of course. I know maybe some people are mistaken that you guys are from Seattle. You're not from Seattle. You're from Chicago. Mm-hmm. Does that ever bother you when people, like...
We don't really get it so much anymore. Yeah. I think the band kind of past the point of, like, people not knowing. I don't know. It doesn't really bother me anymore. I don't really care. To me, where you're from really is so inconsequential in the end.
Mm-hmm. You guys played on Saturday Night Live a couple weeks ago. How was that? What was that like?
It was cool. It's just the pressure of, like, possibly failing on national TV with your parents watching was kind of hard to deal with, but it was okay.
You guys survived it?
Yeah, I mean, but it's so weird because it was like, you just play in the studio with all these cameras and there's some people there and you get no conception of how big it is, but then like, the next day, like, I go to the airport and this lady's taking my ticket and she's like, oh, I saw you on TV, and then I get off the plane and this guy's like handing me my bag, she's like, I saw you on TV, and it was just like, you get a sense of how big it really is, so it was cool.
That's great. All right, so we're going to be playing a bunch of tunes that we're picking out.
Tunes from my childhood.
So you grew up on this kind of music. Oh, by the way, the Merciful Fate, Desecration of Souls, you picked that. No, you like Merciful Fate.
Totally.
That's amazing.
I'm a total Merciful Fate fan. No, I mean, in school, my favorite bands were, Metallica, Merciful Fate, and Judas Priest, and Black Sabbath, and R.E.M., and U2, and whatever else was going on at the time. And so I had all these friends who were into rock, and they couldn't understand how I listened to all this wussy music, and all my new wave friends couldn't understand how I listened to all this metal music, but I just liked it because I thought it was good, and I never really cared.
What do you think of the fans today who are, like, really into Smashing Pumpkins and all the Seattle things like Nirvana, Soundgarden, and just can't stand to listen to bands like Metallica or Judas Priest or Iron Maiden?
I think that's the same kind of closed-mindedness that I had to deal with when it was more acceptable to listen to metal and not as acceptable to listen to alternative music. I mean, it sounds silly now, but in 1985, when I listened to bands like U2 and R.E.M., I was considered like new wave, And nowadays, those are the bands that are in the mainstream, and even Metallica, And so, I think people should judge music on whether it's good or bad. And there's plenty of bad metal, there's plenty of bad alternative music, and
exactly. That's beautiful. That's my thoughts exactly.
So, if it's good, it's good. But
yeah.
I think ultimately this kind of a categorization of music is kind of like how people separate themselves in high school. Your hair is too long, not long enough.
So you're in this group, and
yeah, I think it's getting really old. I don't know. Maybe it just seems old to me, but it's really silly.
Yeah. Well, as far as alternative music goes, back in the 80s, it really wasn't as big of a deal as it is today, of course. Right now, it's one of the most potent forces, I think, in the mainstream. And the whole meaning behind alternative in the 80s was to reject the mainstream pop and all the showbiz glitz and all that kind of thing. And today, however, it's so much in the mainstream that it's almost becoming, what the big new thing is. And it's kind of like if you guys are stars now, haven't you become everything that alternative people are against? I mean, how do you? It's kind of like a controversy.
I understand. I understand what you're asking, but my feelings on it are. I play in a band because I want people to hear what I do, and so I have no problem with selling records, playing shows, and that. And anybody who makes videos and makes records and then pretends like they accidentally got famous and humongous is a liar. bands like Metallica and Nirvana's of the world are big bands because they're good and because they work at it. So this notion that when people get to a certain point they're no longer viable or a force or that they can represent this kind of alternative or from another angle, I think that's totally untrue. I think let's remember back, it wasn't too long ago we had Poison with makeup and poodle hair. Metallica's completely changed. Metallica and Nirvana combined probably have completely changed the face of rock music for the better. It's more real. It's more representative of how people are. And it's not to say, I mean, I like Merciful Fate. I love Merciful Fate, and it's totally like from some kind of cartoon land. But I'm saying ultimately, I think people are a lot more comfortable with music that represents their life in the way that it really is. So.
That's almost kind of like, I was at the College Music Journal convention 2 weeks ago in New York City. I don't know if you're familiar with that at all. And many of the college stations refuse to play any band that has become big on commercial radio, such as Smashing Pumpkins. You know, they won't go near it because. And
well,
what are your views on that?
Well, I think there's a certain part of that that's real because people kind of tend to side with the underdog. So when somebody passes past a certain point, then they want to look for new things. But I think most bands that are big because they're good. It's not a question of that. And I understand people wanting to get into new things, but I think just because Nirvana sold 5 million records doesn't mean they're not viable or good for
that matter.
And I think that ultimately people, if they listen and they think, well, this band no longer represents where I'm coming from, then they shouldn't listen anymore. But they really shouldn't base it on who's listening
and on how commercial the band has gotten.
For the first time, we're really having to deal with a certain element of our audience that we've never had to deal with before. We always had rock people come to our shows. We always had alternative people come to our shows. But now we're getting kind of like the college lughead element because the band has passed a certain...
suburban white middle class people.
Absolutely.
Now coming to your shows.
And they're screaming obscenities at me while we play and things like that. And that's hard to deal with.
I mean, how is that when you're playing a show and you look out and you see a bunch of white, middle class, middle upper class suburban kids looking at you? What's that like for you?
Well, I always think back that there was a point in my life where I was naive to the world and I fell into the kind of idea that I could only listen to certain kinds of music and I could only dress a certain way and I think a lot of young people especially fall in that naivete where they haven't really found out who they are yet and they're still in a stage where they're following people. So I know a lot of bands like us have trouble dealing with that element, but I always feel that if you can appeal to that element in an emotional way or a logical way, maybe they'll realize that there are other ways to be and other ways to think. And at some point I was like, a dumb 16-year-old metalhead kid who didn't know anything, and I think there's plenty of dumb 16-year-old everybody's out there, and I don't know, it's hard for me to explain. But
and you're saying like people that don't give certain types of music a chance, almost.
Well, it's not even, let's go take it beyond music. There are a lot of people who grow up basically believing what their parents believe and never give that a second thought, and I think that I think ultimately people are more comfortable when they see the choices that they have in their lives musically and lifestyle-wise, and then make the choice to the people that they are. But you run into a lot of people that they are who they are because that's all they've ever known. So when you look out and you see the guy with the bi-level haircut who is embarrassed to listen to the Smashing Pumpkins and doesn't want to tell his friends because they'll think he's uncool, you realize there is something there that maybe he wants something more out of life. I mean, that goes beyond the band. That goes into some other area where the person's trying to find out who they are. So I can't moralize against that. It's hard to deal with, and when they act like idiots, it's a problem. But
right.
Let's just get back to the metal, all right?
That's very deep for me. I don't know about you guys. All right, we're here with Billy Corgan of the Smashing Pumpkins playing guest DJ today at SOU. And right now, going to get into, would you like to introduce it?
I forgot what I picked.
Black Sabbath.
Oh, yeah.
This is Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, right here, 89.5 WSOU. Player 89.5 WSOU. What's South of Heaven? That one, of course, Ghost of War. And that's picked out by Billy Corgan from Smashing Pumpkins. That is just an amazing thing.
Imagine
what Slayer. I cannot believe that. I'm in shock.
How bold it must be to be Tom Araya. Like, just to walk in and know that you're, like, in the most kick-ass band in the world. It must be bold. I don't know that feeling, but...
Actually, Tom Araya from Slayer was here last year. He did an interview with us, and he's like the nicest guy that you possibly want.
I thought I saw some of his hair over here in the corner.
He's very soft-spoken. You'd never imagine he sings something like War Ensemble, you know? It's very interesting. But anyway, I got to read this little thing here, and then we'll get back to hanging out and talking. I got to tell you guys, part of the programming heard on WSOU FM has been made possible thanks to Pete Dersha, who presents Ace Frehley this Wednesday night, Thanksgiving Eve at Studio One. On November 26th, it's Sacred Right Souls at Zero and Crowbar. On the 27th, it's Mind Funk. On December 1st, it's Shotgun Messiah. And on the 2nd, it's the Bullet Boys. And on the 10th, it's Overkill. All shows are for all ages. That's Ace Frehley this Wednesday night at Studio One, located at 8890 Verona Avenue in North Newark, New Jersey. For more information, the club number is 201-482-1150. That's 201-482-1150.
That's not a commercial, though.
No, that's actually we don't say the C word on the station.
Oh.
That's actually called underwriting.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, it's just like
that's what I call it too. When I get the record company to give me money, they're underwriting me.
Exactly. So I don't know what else were we talking about here? We're talking about
Let's talk about happy things. We were getting into some sad territory.
Some sad territory. Oh, then you're not going to like this.
All right.
All right. Let's scratch that. Tell me about the tour. That's a happy thing, I'd assume.
No, at this point, I'm kind of not into it, so.
It's not a happy thing.
No, I'm totally losing my. No, that's fine. No, I'm just totally losing my mind.
And how long have you been on the tour for?
Well, we've toured almost 3 months straight, 4 months straight.
It might be up here.
But we started right before the album came out. So whatever month this is, we started in July.
July. It's not here.
15th, so July.
And where have you gone?
4 months.
What places have you hit?
Well, we did all of Western Europe and England, and now we've done almost all of America.
Really?
So I'm just tired, and you know, we're in a strange situation because the band has gotten really big in like the most subtle of ways, if you can call it that, and people come expecting so much, and they've seen so much MTV, and I don't know what they expect from us beyond us, like, you know, being really intense about what we do and playing good shows. But I swear to God, I feel like people need me to rip my arms off and bleed and fall down and act like I'm on drugs, and it's just, you get the feeling like it's never enough.
I mean, people are so used to being entertained when they go out to a show, and their expectations are so high.
That's fine, but I feel like really caught between being like, you know, a puppet, you know, on a string and performing whatever little dance I'm supposed to do, and being myself, and so it just wears me down.
Are you tired of the songs? Are you tired of playing them, or
no?
That hasn't bothered you?
No, I'm at some point you begin to tire of your own songs, but I haven't really tired of these. I'm pretty happy with them. Actually.
That's great. Then it's just the audience that you're tiring of.
Well, you know, like I got hit in the face with the shoe, and Darcy got hit in the face with the shoe, and people
who would dare do that to you? That is just absolutely asinine. But
well, you know, it wasn't a woman.
Yeah. So you guys are playing actually in New York City at the Roseland this Tuesday and Wednesday night. I believe both shows are sold out. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that must make you feel great, though.
Yeah, it feels
just
really
to know
good.
that in New York City, you know.
Yeah, because only 2 years ago we were open for the Chili Peppers there, and now we're back, and it should be fun.
And I believe that I think the day, was it, Kevin? You were telling me the day the tickets went on sale for Smashing Pumpkins at Roseland was, like, I think the day before today was released as a single. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, can you imagine, like, if the tickets had gone on sale, like, a week or two later? Forget it. They were just all eaten up, you know?
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. It's a strange thing because, you know, we're this really big band, but it's not, like, screaming in your face, and people are constantly amazed in a good way that the band does as well as it does.
You're very artsy. I would, artsy kind of.
Artsy?
Artsy, yes. That actually is a term that I read for in Time magazine.
Artsy.
Yes, very artsy.
Oh, I heard we were glam. That's what.
Actually they did say, and I don't understand. I don't know how they had the nerve to print that you guys are glam rock, but
no one has ever been able to kind of pin us down. No one ever really understands. And I mean, I come from the kind of same sensibility like a Jane's Addiction, where we're trying to get beyond class categories and just be powerful and really into what we do. And so. I mean, we've been compared from every band, from, R.E.M. to Black Sabbath to, that gives you a pretty good idea.
Black Sabbath, huh? Well, you definitely have a particular style to your music. I mean, if you listen to the album, it is sad, but it's happy in a way. I think it's a combination of both. I mean, really, I think each of the songs flows into. It's just kind of, it's like the type of record you could just put in and just listen to the whole thing. It just kind of flows into the next song.
That's kind of the idea.
It's like going down a river, you know, something. I don't know.
That's a good way to describe it.
Yeah, it's definitely it's one of the best albums I've heard this year. It's the truth, though. Okay, what else did I wanted to ask you? How do you feel about, like, if you were offered a
drugs?
tour? No. This is a Catholic university.
Oh, I'm sorry.
If you were
who's the coach here? PJ Carlissimo?
PJ Carlissimo, yeah.
Okay.
If you were offered a tour to play to play arenas across the country, you know, like the Meadowlands.
I mean, us or opening?
Either opening or...
Because we've turned down really big tours.
Yeah, you have.
Oh, yeah.
That would be my question.
I think we've turned down U2 like 5 times. And we're possibly going to do some shows with Metallica, and we've done shows with Guns N' Roses. I mean...
Do you have anything against playing, like, big arenas?
Well, let's face it. If you've ever gone to see a show at an arena, and you're anywhere more than 50 feet away, how good of a time are you going to have? You're not. And I understand that at some point bands get so big where that's the only way to accommodate everybody that wants to see them. But ultimately, it's just not. It doesn't make for good rock show. That's all. I think places like the Roseland are about as big as it should get, because you can still get some semblance of what's going on stage. And I know, bigger bands try to get around it with video screens and stuff, but it's just not the same thing. And anybody who's seen a great show in a small club where you're 10 feet away from the band, it's just as much for the band's point of view, it's hard to forget that those are the best kinds of shows. So we're kind of in a weird position, because we're reaching the point where we're about as in the big size venues as we want to be in. If we have to go to bigger venues, I'm not sure what we would do, because we've tried on this tour in certain cities to play smaller venues and just do multiple nights, like what we're doing here.
And that's probably the best route you can take.
I mean, obviously, we could do an arena here if we can sell 9,000 tickets. So
yeah. I think it's much more atmospheric in a club, and
absolutely,
there's much more a sense of togetherness. Of the music is what counts, you know. Whereas when you go to an arena, it's
let's face it. I mean, ultimately, when you get into arenas, it's about making money. That's it.
Exactly, and it's funny because I was talking to Dave, the drummer from Pearl Jam, last year, and he had told me flat out, "We're not going to do arenas. We don't like it. We don't want to do it."
He may eat those words yet.
Yeah,
you watch that. I mean, come on, they sold 1 million records the first week that record was out.
Do you think they'll be able to stick to it?
Well, here, okay, so let's take it the other way around, though. You're in this band, you've sold, 6-7 million records. Do you play small places and piss off, like, 90% of your fans who want to see you play?
And that's a big argument that I've gotten from a lot of people I've talked to. Well, how dare they? They're just being selfish because they want to play a club instead of an arena. Right. What about me? I want to go see them, and I can't get a ticket because I'm always shut out.
Well, just the size we're at, I get a lot of that. People are mad at me because they can't get tickets. So it's a no-win situation. There's no way around it. Bands get to the point where they're just too big to keep playing the 1,000 people in a club thing.
And even if you book multiple nights, say at a place like the Roseland, you get the same people going each night because they love you so much, and then that shuts out other people that might want to get a ticket. Right. It is. It's got its pros and cons. I think both sides of the issue. But hopefully, you guys and Pearl Jam and everybody else out there who feels the way you do will be able to somehow resolve that.
We have this idea that we're just going to get like puppets that look like us, and then we're just going to stay at home, and then we'll send the puppets on tour.
Well, I guess that's better.
But we'll actually control the puppets. See, I mean, so it'll be like it's us
with a remote controller unit,
right?
There,
and
like Nintendo.
And we can make the puppets better looking than we actually are, and with more intense expressions of honesty and sincerity.
And you can have them ripping off arms, like you said before.
Yeah, exactly. Let's think of the special effects possibilities.
Yeah, well, I guess that's better than going up on stage and lip syncing or something like that, huh?
Well, yeah. I don't know. I've never lip synced, so.
Well, that's a good thing. All right, we're gonna get into. You picked this one out too, Judas Priest.
I don't know. You kind of picked this out too.
Well, okay, I helped. It was either Sinner or The Ripper,
right? And
I wanted to go with The Ripper.
Hey, man.
Billy Corgan from Smashing Pumpkins hanging out, guest DJing Judas Priest, right here at WSOU. All right, we're here with Billy Corgan of the Smashing Pumpkins right here in the studio at SOU. such a great thing. It's you know, Billy, it's amazing you came down here, you know, because I really wasn't. I tried for this interview like last month, and I was talking. I think I bothered Chuck so much about it. I mean, I probably drove the poor guy crazy.
Matt here. Matt is in Maplewood.
We must thank Matt.
New Jersey
Thank
boy.
you very much, Matt. And it's just amazing that, you know, you'd come down to college radio here and just hang with us today. And I just wanted to thank you for that. That's so cool. Like, you know, I mean, you have you could go anywhere. You could go to like Z100 or something, or PLJ or something like that, and yet you come here. And I'm sure our listeners are like just enthralled too. It's a great thing. So I had to say that on the air. But
it's really not me. I'm not really Billy.
No, you're an impersonator.
You've been duped.
Oh boy, don't say that. Don't tell our listeners that.
They actually believe me there for a
They
second.
will. They'll believe it, and that's the awful part about it.
No, it is me. I'm really the sad guy in person.
All right. So actually, what I wanted to ask you before, your band would almost be like kind of a part of the, dare I say it, the grunge kind of movement.
Dare
thing.
you
Now,
not say it?
Now,
Stop.
I know. I have to ask you this though. Like, how do you feel about, you know, the grunge movement? I mean, does it obscure the real message of what alternative music is about? I mean, when they focus on fashion and being hip to it and having New York City models dressing up in the, quote, grunge look, unquote, I mean, how do you feel about that?
Well, everybody's got to put a name on something, and grunge is the word that was given to whatever musical and cultural movement happened, you know, spearheaded mostly by Nirvana and then ultimately Pearl Jam. But I think, you know, in the first year and a half after all that kind of happened, we had to deal with that a lot because I think people just lumped it all together. But now I think we've kind of come into our own, and I think people can understand the distinction between that there are other types of music, the Breeders and bands that, like, we've got Swerve Driver on tour with us. We play with Shudder to Think. These are really different bands that don't play rock. They don't play. You know, I mean, you can call it alternative, but what is it? It's like, some people call it postmodernist music, where you're compressing the musical styles of the past 30 years all together and making it into something new. I think that's the most healthy direction that music could go in. So, you know, call us what you want, whatever, but, you know, not grunge.
Do you think alternative music has gotten so big that they have to subcategorize it?
I think that it's, I always felt that, in high school, I mean, my three favorite bands in high school were R.E.M., Metallica, and U2. And I always thought if people would just really listen to these bands would be humongous. But there's not the avenues by which people would know about these bands. Well, now those bands are three of the biggest bands in the world because people did get the opportunity to hear them. And ultimately, music is kind of like a dog-eat-dog kind of thing. Whoever's better and best, and whoever can kind of win the game. It's not always about music, but it ultimately comes down to who's a good band.
And it's also about being at the right place at the right time.
And I think the best bands are now winning out because people no longer readily accept what's fed to them. And I think that's great. I think hopefully it'll continue. But, you know, every time I start to think that, I think, well, in the late 60s we had such a great musical revolution, and then 5 years later we had disco, so Lord knows what we're going to be doing 5 years from now.
But also in the 70s, you have to take into account the punk scene and all the underground things that were going on, too.
Do you?
I guess you would.
Oh, okay. I'm just teasing.
Okay, disco was big, but there was also undercurrents.
Right. I know. I agree with you. I'm just saying that we're in a really healthy period of music. There's a lot of really good music. There's a lot of really good bands that are symbolically representing, you know, our generation's lives. It's not poodle hair and makeup. It's not some fantasy thing. It's reality. It's and not to say that music shouldn't have some kind of element of myth to it, but I think people feel a lot closer to the popular bands now because they feel like they kind of grew up the same way.
Yeah.
And I think it's cool. I'm glad to be part of that. And, you know, that's what I'm saying. Ultimately, call me whatever you want. I don't really care because I know what we're doing. I know who we're reaching. I see the faces in the crowd, and I know what they look like. And I kind of talk to a lot of people, and I get a lot of feeling about what people are really thinking. So.
And I think also today's music of the 90s, the quote alternative rock, if you will, is a reaction. It's very reactionary to the 80s, where where the sugar-coated bands just dominated the whole music scene, and I think people just got so fed up with that and so sick of that, and a whole new generation came about. The people today in their teens and their 20s come from, you got to look at where they're coming from. They're coming from broken homes. They're coming from,
absolutely.
It's awful, the things that are going on out there. They're coming from a world where AIDS is the biggest new disease, and it's just been a really, I think, tough time for them, and I think they can relate so much to what the bands are talking about and what they're expressing lyrically, as far as divorce and all the rest of it goes. That kids, that older people didn't really have to deal with. I think.
Agree. But who knows? 5 years from now, who knows what we'll be listening to?
Yeah.
Techno.
People are listening to that already.
Hey man, the Scorps got a new album coming out.
And you dig the Scorpions, right?
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, that's what is.
All right, I've been here now half hour, 45 minutes. Okay, I like rock. We can get over that.
I can't get over that.
Just play the Scorpions, man.
I can't do it. But anyway, you picked out the Scorpions.
This is old Scorpions.
Old Scorpions.
When Claus,
Smashing Pumpkins.
This is before Claus had his vocal surgery, and when all the guys in the band still had their hair.
All right, here we go. Scorpions, 89.5 WSOU, hanging with Billy Corgan from the Smashing Pumpkins. Oh, that's trouble. Come on, baby, touch that sky. 25 minutes after 5 o'clock. And I got Billy Corgan from the Smashing Pumpkins hanging out with me on your Monday afternoon. And he's got to read something here, so we're going to let him read it.
Did you know part of the programming heard on WSOU FM has been made possible thanks to Pete Tersha?
Pete Tersha.
Who represents and presents the Ace Frehley, this Wednesday night. Thanksgiving Eve at Studio One. On November 26th, it's Sacred Reich, Souls at Zero, and Crowbar. On the 27th, it's Mindfunk. On December 1st, it's Shotgun Messiah. On the 2nd, it's the Bullet Boys. And on the 10th, it's Overkill. All shows are for all ages. That's Ace Frehley this Wednesday night at Studio One, located at 8890 Verona Avenue, North Newark, New Jersey. For further information, the club number is 201-482-1150. That's 201-482-1150.
That was absolutely beautiful.
I don't know. That's a lot harder than I thought it was.
No, it's not. Actually, probably the worst time that I ever had anybody read this, and they messed it up so completely and so they just did, I'd say on a scale of 1 to 10, you were like a 10, but this person was like a negative 20 probably. You know who was on the air reading this for me? Gilbert Gottfried came down here last year for Christmas with me, and he really wanted to read it, so I let him, and he just made a total mockery of it. But he's definitely quite a character.
Did Pete Tersha get mad?
Unto himself. No, luckily nobody heard it, I don't think. Or at least it didn't get back to anyone here, so that was good. But that interview was just a nightmare and a half. But that's not what's going on right now. Actually, we have to hit one more car, and we'll be right back after this. All right, and we're back with Billy Corgan of the Smashing Pumpkins, hanging out right here at 89.5 WSOU. And let's see, what are we going to talk about next here? I want to talk about...
We're getting into all this sad territory.
Well, it doesn't have to be sad. It doesn't have to be.
All right, okay.
Because, you can look at it in many different ways, I think.
Okay.
But I'd like to talk about your lyrics, lyrically, what inspires you to write the stuff you do on the albums, particularly Siamese Dream, and, what you think of the songs on it, lyrically, what they mean. I have a quote here, actually, from your first, I believe it was your first single, Cherub Rock, and the quote is, you call it an attack on alternative dogmatism, or something like that. Please explain that to me.
Well, it's kind of like high school in alternative music, where you have bands who supposedly have great credibility because they were in punk rock bands in '84 or something, who kind of use the position they're in to try and put other bands down because they think that whatever that band is doing isn't valid in the context of alternative music. And alternative music ultimately is no different than any other form of music in that you have people being snipey and saying nasty things about you behind your back. And we took a lot of criticism, not so much from the press, but kind of from the inside, from different bands and stuff, kind of accusing us of being sellouts and this and that. And it just really hurt me because, we're from Chicago, which is not the best-known music city. We played for 2 years before anybody even heard of us. We drove around in a van, we froze, we slept on people's floors. We did tours with our own money. Everybody had to work to support themselves. I don't want to meddle, but we suffered and we paid our dues in the way that you're supposed to and all that. And so when things finally started to go well for the band, to a lot of people, we just seemed to appear out of nowhere overnight. But we'd already been a band for a couple of years, and been through a lot. So a lot of those things really hurt me and made me really angry, because who is someone else to tell me what my credibility or what my intentions in music are? So it was just kind of my way of, and to ultimately answer your question, the song's about the idea that, the minute that you accept money for what you do, you're no longer a free person. And it's kind of like what I was saying before. If you're making videos and you're taking money, then how can you really call anybody else a liar and a cheat when it's exactly what you're doing too? It's a business, and it's cool when you can do what you want to do and be successful, whatever. But I just don't like the idea that someone who's doing exactly what I'm doing is telling me that what I'm doing is wrong, but what they're doing is, it's like,
Exactly.
If your mom tells you not to smoke with a cigarette in her hand, that's what it was like.
That's my dad. But no, I totally understand where you're coming from. So that's what that song was like, in a reaction to everybody saying that you were a sellout, which in fact is not the case at all. But it could be a cover-up because maybe they're just jealous of the success that you're getting, and maybe they want that, and maybe they're just saying, oh, well, that person's a sellout just because they're angry. Maybe they're angry that you're being taken away from them, because it's more personal when a band isn't huge. It's more like, okay, they're my band, whereas when they get so big, they're on Top 40 radio, they're not my band anymore.
I don't know.
But the concept of freedom is just an interesting one itself, because it's so overrated anyway, I think. I mean, there's no real concept of absolutely being free, and the Constitution...
If I really felt free, I wouldn't be in a rock band.
That's the truth. Where do you get the inspiration to write your songs?
Just my screwed up life, that's all. There's plenty to write about.
Oh, and expand on that. We'd love to.
Well, like last year when I was writing the album, my relationship with my longtime girlfriend, who's now married to me, had broken up miserably and was terrible, and we didn't speak for a long time, and I went through a lot of different emotions, like, at first it was her fault, and it was my fault, and it was both, and so I was going through a lot, and I was going through a lot of personal changes and different things. So it's kind of like the lyrics in a lot of ways are this mixture of someone who's very much in these heavy emotions, but also being objective about them. So half the lyrics are written from kind of like a child's point of view, and half of them are written from an adult's point of view. So
it's a very emotional soundtrack, I think, lyrically and musically as well.
Yeah, well, I can't seem to do it any other way. It just, if it doesn't move me, I'm embarrassed to put it out.
And that's typical of, I think, alternative rock. I mean, it's very emotional.
But see, I think alternative rock suffers from a lot of the same things that all music suffers from. I don't think it's any more or less emotional. I just think sometimes the subject matter overtly seems that way. But I meet a lot of bands who don't really give, two dimes about what they're singing about. Mm-hmm. They just think that's what they're supposed to be doing. So.
What are your favorite tracks off the new one, Siamese Dream?
Actually, I hate them all.
Oh, come on, you got to have a favorite.
I don't know. I really don't.
No?
It's hard for me to listen to. So I can't even listen to the record because it took so long to make, and it was hard for me to deal with, and blah blah blah. So I don't know. That's
great. Okay. Actually, we're going to get to one of the songs, but not yet, because I know you want to play "Corrosion of Conformity." So we're going to do that, and then we'll get to one of your Smashing Pumpkins songs.
Okay.
All right. Sounds good. Is that a good deal?
Okay.
All right. Now, COC is another one you picked out. This shows you're very diverse as far as going from something like Scorpions to Corrosion of Conformity. Mm-hmm. It's kind of funny.
But, good. That's all I really
That's great. And it's great to see it, that you're not closed-minded at all when it comes to music. And
only about people. Music, I'm open-minded. About people, I'm very closed-minded.
People?
Yeah.
And why is that?
Because people are crazy.
You're just jaded, huh?
I'm very jaded, yeah.
It's a good way to be. All right, getting to Corrosion of Conformity, and you actually picked my favorite track on this record, which is cool.
Okay. Cool.
And it's called Break the Circle, right here, 89.5 WSOU, hanging with Billy Corgan from the Smashing Pumpkins. Break the Circle, right here, 89.5 WSOU. Hanging with Billy Corgan from the Smashing Pumpkins. It has been a pleasure having you down here today. It's amazing that you guys came down, and I'm very, very excited and very happy to have you down here. This is something I will never forget. But
I'm gonna play that wussy song I did.
Oh no, we have to play it though. It's a must.
All right, well,
because I play it all the time.
I made her promise me after she played one of my wussy songs she'd play something heavy, so y'all didn't think I was a wimp.
I'm sure they don't think that. So you guys are playing Tuesday and Wednesday night.
Yeah.
Smashing
I'd invite
Pumpkins
everyone
in
to come,
Roselands,
but
New York City. It's sold out.
sold
It is sold out. Oh, you know what we got to do though? First though, before we leave, we're giving away.
We've got 10 Siamese Dream CDs to give away.
10 Siamese Dream CDs to give away. Give us a call, 201-761-9768 right now. If you can't get through, keep calling because we only have 2 phone lines. And, you know, when Rob's taking down information and addresses and stuff, you could still win because that could only be like the second or third person. So keep calling.
A half an hour from now, you could still win.
Exactly. So just keep calling and ask, did you get rid of all the Siamese Dream CDs yet? Because I want one. And if you don't have one,
they fetch a good price.
You should have one because because it's a great.
You need $6 or whatever they pay in New York.
What's that? No.
To win the CD and then you
stop
sell it
that.
and you get $6.
Yeah, why would you want to do that? You would not want to do that to the Smashing Pumpkins because it's such a great CD. It's not something. I mean, I could see doing that with something like. Well, I wouldn't want to like say it because that's rude, but you know, not the Smashing
Operation
Pumpkins.
Mindcrime.
Oh, dissing hardcore. No, but it's a really great CD. So call us up right now, 201-761-9768 from the station. Best giveaways, 89.5 WSOU. And I want to thank you very much once again for coming in. Thank you, Chuck, for bringing him down. Chuck from Virgin coming through, and Matt, because Matt is actually the one who pulled it all together, huh?
Word up to Vaganza.
Oh, yeah. I'm supposed to get a plug-in for my friend's band, Vaganza. They're coming to a glam thing near you.
All right. That's the plug of the day. All right. And we're going to be closing it off with something from Siamese Dream. And we're now finally getting to some Smashing Pumpkins right here. We've gone through like an hour interview. And
take your drugs now, please.
Absolutely beautiful song. It's called Mayonnaise. Anything you want to say about it?
People always want to know what the song's about.
Well, we'll leave it up for interpretation.
They get all these sexual connotations out of it.
I don't understand
know where that
that.
comes from.
I don't understand it at all. We'll leave it up to interpretation to you guys, the listeners. 89.5 WSOU.